What's up, everybody? The Sanderson's Farm Challenge, Classic, Championship, whatever it's called. The tournament with the ugliest logo there is on the PGA Tour. We'll be live in 1 minute here on Fairway to Heaven. And good evening, everybody. Welcome to Fairway to Heaven right here on DSM Media Live. Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. You know the drill. Like, share, retweet, follow on all social media platforms. If you want to get interactive with the show, best place to do that is on the DSM Media YouTube page. You go over there, you hit the like, the subscribe button. You drop your comments in the comments section, kind of like the examples. What a name. The Sanderson Farm Championship. I am your host, Phil Stifel. We're back for season 3 of Fairway to Heaven. My main man, Jason Sullivan, sitting here next to me. Good evening, Jason. How you doing today, my friend?
What's up, buddy? I'm doing good. You know how we talked about a few weeks ago? We talked about if you're going to name your kid after one of the tournaments, Sanderson could be one of them. Sanderson Stifel.
Perfect. Yeah, I was going to say Sanderson Sullivan. That would, there's a better chance of another Sullivan coming along someday than a Stifel ever coming along. No. Is there an uglier logo for a tournament? I tried to find one and download it, but I couldn't because it's so ugly. My computer rejected downloading the image. I'm not kidding. I tried to download an image 3 times before the show started.
You know, the logo's awful. I agree with you. And then it's like, here, we're going to put you after the President's Cup. We're going to get everybody hyped up for golf, and then we're going to give you this crappy event. Kind of sucks.
Look, it's the fall swing. We had the Fortnite named after what's Fortnite? Isn't that like a game you play on your phone or something like that? I mean,
I think so.
The sponsors of the fall swing are not necessarily – you're not getting a BMW championship in October or November or anything like that. So they got to really dig deep to the bottom of the barrel. But it doesn't mean there's not money to be made this week, right? There's, a golf tournament. There's 140-plus golfers playing. You can still make money in the fall swing. We didn't do the show during the fall swing last year. So we're back now. We're starting the season early this year because you still make some money. And we're here to give you the information to make that money, right?
Exactly. And we were talking before off air is that, the prize pools aren't as good. Obviously, football started. Football is going to take the cake for most people. But like us degenerates that we play every week no matter what. And we were just kind of talking about like, this is the time to find contests that you like, find strategies that you like, and just kind of go with that and kind of build for the bigger season. But like you said, there's still money to be made. It might not be as much money as usual, but there's still money to be made.
Right. So, we're talking about testing different strategies in different events. Like everybody knows. So I've been playing the Sammy Burns is hungry. Dude, my man Kyle was front and center at the President's Cup last week. He just moved down to North Carolina. He was front and center. He's posted so many pictures on his Facebook page of the President's Cup. And I was living through you, Kyle, last week. That seemed like you had such a good time last week. I'm so glad you got to check that out last week.
What's funny too is he's right. It's like Burns didn't really get any of the hype because of Tom Kim and obviously JT and Spieth and the usuals, Max Homa. But it's like Burns was actually really, really good last week. I don't think he lost, and he was just a stud.
And Sam Burns was kind of struggled down the stretch this past year. Yeah. He had a really good season, obviously, but the last month and a half of the season, he was not in peak form anymore. And I'm kind of surprised he hasn't withdrawn yet from
Me
the
too.
thing. I know he's the defending champion, and everybody wants to defend their crown. Um, Absolutely, let's do this at Quail. Yeah, he lives near Quail. Let's do a fairway to heaven, Kyle, at Quail Hollow. Absolutely, that would be a dream trip right there. Absolutely, and I know you would show us a good time right there. Um, I'm kind of surprised, even though he's the defending champ, that Sam Burns hasn't withdrawn. I really didn't think anybody from the President's Cup would make the trip, and really the energy from the President's Cup to the Sanderson farm, it's kind of got to be a big letdown. So I'm surprised none of the guys that are in both didn't withdraw yet.
Well, Munoz did. I saw that today.
Was he in the President's Cup? Was he
Yeah, he
part
was
of the?
the president. Yeah, he
I
played
didn't
well
even
actually for the
did he?
international team.
Okay.
He was pretty
The
good.
international team was so lax on star power
They were.
that I can't actually believe they hung in there as long as they did. Actually,
I know. Yeah, it's because of the Koreans. The Koreans were
yeah.
on fire. I mean, our boy Tom Kim, we love him, and
Kim.
gosh, Siwoo.
Yeah. All right. So with this kind of an event, a small event, like we said, testing out different strategies. So last week, on my way to Cancun, 2 weeks ago, I kind of wanted to test a different strategy out. I'm sitting in the airport in Baltimore waiting to fly out. I'm like, all right, let's see. I know once I get to Mexico, I can't do an event. I can't put any Draftkings lineups together. So I'm sitting there, and I find an event. It's Wednesday morning, super early. I'm like, I've never seen this kind of an event before. So I'm like, let's test it out. And I only did one lineup because I had no research and all. So I don't know if they exist for $1 or $5 or whatever. It was a 25-cent event, and it kind of intrigued me, Jason. And I want to bring it up because it's available this week. It's called the PGA Tour Big 40-Time Micro Booster. So basically, it's 25 cents. You can put up to 20 lineups into it. So it's $5 total and max enter. The top 50 people all win $10. So it's equal prize first to 50. And there's only 2,300 people. So top 50, what's that out of? I don't know what the percentages of that, but 50 out of 2,300 people all win $10. And it kind of intrigued me. And with zero research, only putting one lineup in, I almost actually cashed it. So it's got me thinking maybe this week. I wasn't going to do a lot of research. I wasn't going to put a lot of effort into this week. Then I actually started doing it. I put a lot of research. I got a lot of names. I was thinking of this event, and I'm thinking of max entering 20 lineups into this event. And I want to know what your thoughts are on events. It's almost like a double up to an extent. You know what I mean? Where everybody wins the same amount of money. 50 out of 2,300. If you put 5 lineups 4 times into it, find 5 lineups that you really like, and put each of those 5. If you hit one of those 5 lineups, that means you hit for $40.
I think that's.
Do you get what I'm trying to explain? I don't know if I'm explaining this event right or this contest right, but I'm kind of thinking this might be kind of a fun way to, a kind of fun week to test something like this out.
No, I think you're right. And I think when you say cash games, I think people automatically think double ups, right? They automatically think, 45 or 40% or whatever it is of the field gets paid. I think they think of that, but there's other cash games too. I mean, there's a lot of them. Like last year on football, I had a lot of success with the smaller. I think it was like $3 entries, 500 people. It's like, yeah, you're not going to win these huge prize pools of 25K or anything like that. But like, if you want to just like find a way to like steadily increase your bankroll, I feel like that's the way to go.
So on an event like this, where you get 20 entries, 50 entries or more, or just 50 entries cash, would it be, do you think, beneficial to have 20 unique lineups, or something like I'm thinking of putting 4 lineups in 5 times or 5 lineups in 4 times? You know what I mean? Like, it's a weaker field. I've got 20, 25 names written here, but I'm trying to figure out what would probably be the better strategy in this type of event. I don't know if you've ever max entered a double up or a triple up, and I don't know what you would do in that kind of event, but this kind of event, I'm thinking 4 lineups 5 times or 5 lineups 4 times might be the way to go, because all you need to do is hit one lineup, and then you cash 4 or 5 times.
Mm-hmm. No, you might be right. I never really thought about that. So I've always done, whenever I do double ups or cash game, I do 1. I don't do more than 1. I'd make 1 lineup and I enter in multiple contests. So
okay, so you do enter 1 lineup multiple times over.
Yes.
I've never done that.
Not in the same contest.
Never in the same contest. Okay, so like there's double up contests where you can enter 20 times. you wouldn't enter the one lineup 20 times into the same contest?
Never. I'll just kind of preface this by saying I've never played a cash game that wasn't single entry before, so
Okay, gotcha.
I don't know.
Yeah, so this is new to me. And like I said, I entered it one time, one lineup. And when you're doing a 20 max entry, whether it's a GPP or a cash game, you never want to put one lineup in a max entry kind of event like that.
Right.
You need to either come close to or max out. And that's why I'm trying to figure out the strategy. And I'm thinking if you're confident, and I've got about 7 or 8 names that I really, really like this week, and you can make some pretty good, well balanced lineups, I think, this week. It might be the way I go. And we'll see. We'll see next week or 2 weeks from now when we come back on with another episode whether this strategy works or not. But it's just I didn't even know this type. I knew the double ups and the cash games existed. This type of event, I did not know existed. And it kind of it's got my mind juiced and flowing. The way I think about it, I mean, even if you just hit one lineup and you have it in 4 or 5 times, you $40 or $50 on a $5 total entry fee. I mean, dollar wise, it doesn't sound like a lot of money, but getting a 5-time return on your money,
Yeah,
that's huge in
that's
fantasy
interesting.
golf.
That's interesting. I just like the idea of playing smaller tournaments in general. We talked about that in football last year, and like I don't know, I'm guilty of it too. You see this prize pool, like it's
Yeah.
50,000 people, and it's what is it, 25K to first place. It's like that's enticing, obviously, but like realistically, that's a lottery ticket. You're not going to win that.
Right.
I'm not playing 150 lineups a week like some people do. So it's tough.
Right. Well, you say about football. So, like last week, here's a little side story. I have not logged into my FanDuel account in 6 months, 8 months. I don't even know when the last time I logged into it. Remember when I made that parlay, that crazy parlay on all the majors, and I lost it after the first major because I had Cam Smith winning the Masters, not Scotty Scheffler. Since then, I don't think I've logged into FanDuel. So Sunday, I was doing the Eagles pregame show on DSM Media. I'm like, you know what? Before I go watch the game, I just want to see. I'm curious if they got any free rolls on FanDuel. I logged into FanDuel. I happen to have $5 on FanDuel. I'm like, all right, cool. What do I do with it? So I went in there and I found a small $5 single entry event for football that still had some entries. And I think it was like 2,000 total people. I put I put all $5 on one single entry. I finished in 100th place out of a couple thousand. I won $25. Now I have money on the bet. Now, if I would have put that same lineup in one of the 50,000 people or 500,000 people entries, I guarantee I don't finish in the top 100.
Min cash, probably.
Yeah, cash. That $5 turns into $7. What's the point? And $25 isn't a lot of money, but it just goes to show the goal of fantasy sports in general, not just golf or football or gambling, is to have a return on your investment every single week and keep building that prize pool. And if you get lucky one week and you win a big thing, great. If not, you just want to make money every week, right?
Yeah, exactly. I feel like too, like you're like me, where it's like I don't expect to win. It's like if you win, that's great. If you expect to win at DFS, you're playing the wrong thing. It's like expecting to win at the casino. Like it's not the way. It's not the way to go at all. But yeah,
I expect to win at the casino. That's why I lose all the time at the casino.
I just think I don't know. I think you bring up good points. I think that if you could just like do that $5 smaller entry or $3 smaller entry and just kind of build on that, I think that's huge. And what's ironic about your statement is that I actually logged into FanDuel today for the first time in like I don't even remember, like a year probably. And I had like $6 on there. I'm like, I should put some FanDuel lineups in this week. I don't know why I don't play it, but I think Draftkings is just easier to use. I think that's
DraftKings has better overall benefits. Like if you're losing on DraftKings, they're still giving you enough free bets and free lineups and free entries into tournaments. Plus, I think their interface, the whole entire website itself, is easier to maneuver around.
Me too, yeah,
I don't like FanDuel's website and how it like is laid out and stuff.
And it's so different too because FanDuel, the pricing is a lot softer. So it's like you can play a golf tournament, you can put in, Sam Burns and whoever else at the top and not even sweat about building a solid lineup, which is I don't like that necessarily.
That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that we both feel the same way. And FanDuel and DraftKings aren't they owned by the same conglomerate?
I don't even know anymore.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure like a year or two ago, someone bought out both, and they're separate brands, but they're kind of owned by the same person now. So I'm surprised at how different they are. They really are.
I feel like FanDuel got popular for like a hot second. Like everybody was like, "Oh, sponsored by FanDuel," and it's like, with the exception of Pat McAfee, still a FanDuel guy. I know that they paid him a crap ton of money, but like Most of these guys, you don't really. I think they paid him like 120 million or something. Like they don't. You don't see FanDuel as much all of a sudden.
I
It
think I
seems like.
see BetMGM more than I see
Yeah,
FanDuel at this point.
they
And
got Jamie
BetMGM
Foxx
is
on their
fairly.
commercial.
I'm pretty sure they're new in comparison to
Yeah,
like they've only been around for a few years compared to
but they
FanDuel.
got Jamie Foxx, dude.
Yeah, they got Kevin Garnett doing those
Yeah,
commercials too.
yeah,
The big ticket,
yeah.
or whatever his name was. All right, let's talk this week. Sanderson Farm. Outside of making the jokes about the ugly logo, the soft field, it's the fall swing. All right, I got to make fun of the name of the place they're playing at. It's the Country Club of Jackson in Jackson, Mississippi.
Creative.
All right, it's really a creative in Jackson of Jackson.
Yeah,
Dude, literally, can you make a worse name for a worse tournament?
if it wasn't my son's name, I would definitely agree with you. But I told him, and he said, "What?"
Dude, I won't lie. Side note about your son. This was a while ago, but you showed me something that he had written and he wrote his name out on it or whatever, and it was Jackson. I'm like, oh, his name doesn't have an X in it, really? Just because I always hear him as Jax. I always talk to him as Jax.
Yeah,
And I just see JX. But actually seeing it spelled out, yeah, I had no idea for probably the first 6 months to a year that I knew you. I didn't know his name was actually Jackson.
happens a lot.
Yeah.
My son informed me that Jackson is also the capital of Mississippi. So we could
is
have.
it?
I did not know that. Well, my 5-year-old told me that, and he said, "Well, he didn't say this, but I was thinking this. Like, you couldn't come up with a better name for for the country club."
It's not just the name; it's the fact that they call it the Country Club of Jackson,
Like it's the only
in
one.
Jackson.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so I got your fan.
You could name it like so and so country club in Jackson. That would be fine.
Yeah,
But
exactly. So I got your fan share sports write up, which Jason does a great write up every week of courses over on fanshare.com or fansharesports.com. Tell me a little bit about Jackson Country Club in Jackson, Mississippi. It's a long course, but it's kind of a different kind of a course, even though it's so long.
yeah, it's a long course. It's an easy course. It's going to be a birdie week. You're going to need guys that are going to have to score. The par fives.
Yeah, Kyle's son
See?
Jackson also.
That's awesome. We call them jacks too. Yeah, the par fives are not your typical par fives, really, to be honest with you. They're not gimmies in terms of scoring. So I'm going to be weighing par four scoring quite a bit this week. I think that's really important, which typically I try to put a little emphasis on that anyway, but I'm actually going to put a lot of emphasis on that. It's Bermuda tee to green. There's not a lot of trouble on this course, really, to be honest with you. I mean, you're going to have to score. You're going to have to score in bunches, and you're going to have to putt well. That's the biggest thing. So I think targeting putters that putt well in Bermuda is huge. Because obviously in a field like this, really anybody can win. Burns is the overwhelming favorite, but I feel like it wouldn't surprise you at all if a guy that was 100-1 won this tournament. So
right. Which when I'm looking at the guys that I've bet guys from 30-1 to 150-1 this week. So it kind of goes to show. So I read your article. I read a couple other articles. I watch obviously Rick Run Good. I formulate a lot of plans, and based off of the length of the course, but the par four scoring and all that. Originally, I was zoning in on driving accuracy, fairways gained, and stuff like that. But then after thinking of it longer and longer and listening to more people and talking, I'm kind of feeling like driving distance might be more important because it's not so penile off the like if you miss the fairway, you're not, up Schitt's Creek. You know what I mean? So is driving distance more important than accuracy off the tee this week?
I think so, for sure. I actually went into it. I put in my article, actually put accuracy as more important. And then now that I've kind of like looked into it a little bit more, I think you're right. And I think, I don't know, total driving, I think is a good thing to look at. And I think good drives is also a good thing to look at. Cause it's like you said, if you end up in the rough, it's not overly penal. It's going to be 2-inch rough. Like you're not going to be screwed basically if you land in the rough. So.
Yeah, no, that's what. So when I was building my model, and so before we get to the model specifically, a model brought to you by FantasyNational.com. Great website, does the models, has all the shot schemes, categories, and stats that you need. Let them know Fairway to Heaven sent you if you sign up for one of their packages. But this week, I mean, it's a fall swing. There's a lot of golfers that there is not shots gained data for. You got Korn Ferry Tour. You got guys from the Asian Tour, Korn Ferry Tour. You got guys from all over. So this week when I was building my potential player pool, yeah, I looked at the model. I built a model. I put approach. I put all different categories in. We'll get into it in a second. But I almost feel like two things mean more to me than an actual model. And that's history at this tournament, because you get the same guys to an extent in the fall swing that you do. Like the guys in the fall swing, most of them don't play during the regular season of the PGA Tour. So I want the guys that have played well here at the Sanderson Farm, but I also want guys that played really well last week at the Fortnite. So recent form at the Fortnite, another fall swing event, but also the, you know, the course history. What do you think of focusing in on those two things more so than an actual model? Who's the best driving distance guy? Because some of the guys that are great at putting or driving distance or whatever haven't played in 6 weeks or 8 weeks or however long it's been.
That's a good point. I think that's the hardest part about recent form is that I think weighing the last week is obviously very important. It's hard to look too much at recent form though, because like you said, I mean, like you may have played last week and then it might have been 6 weeks before that when you played last time. So I kind of agree with you with stats this week. I'm just kind of going on feel and like the type of golfer that I want to get. Like I want guys that are birdie makers. I want guys that can put up big numbers in a hurry, DK points, like things like that. I feel like it's huge because it's just like, yeah, they might have been in bad form or they might have been in good form, but that might have been 6 weeks ago. It's like it's hard to really your 50 rounds of data might be spread over how many months? 3 months?
Yeah. Like so I'm looking at this. I'm looking at recent form, the last 5 events. It doesn't have the the President's Cup on here. But someone like Russell Henley hasn't played since the BMW Championship outside of last week. Keegan Bradley hasn't played since the BMW. Adam Hadwin, who's 8,700, so top 20 in pricing, hasn't played since the BMW. You could go down to Aaron Rye, great up and comer last year at 7,800, hasn't played since the FedEx St. Jude. You've got guys on here that haven't played a lot of golf, or you got to in the mid sevens. You got a bunch of guys that played at the Fortnite, just recently, but you got guys like Ben On, who finished 4th at the Fortnite, but hadn't played since God knows when. So what do you focus in on? And that's why I'm kind of focusing in on the Fortnite as something that's important and who's played here last year.
Yeah, no, I think that's really smart to do. Another tricky one I was thinking of too, kind of going along your thinking was Davis Riley. Like he had a year last year where he was a stud for most of the year. Like we loved playing him on. We talked about it almost every weekend here. Like we loved him. He's a scorer.
Was a guy that could have been Rookie of the Year if it wasn't for Cam Young.
Yeah, he had a late season slump. Like he wasn't that good in the last month of the season. But that, to me, I don't know. I'm not looking at his form as much because that was over a month ago at this point where since he's played. Like he's a scorer.
To me, he's a little different because Davis Riley also did miss the cut at the Fortnite.
Right.
So, like he had an awful end of the season. Has he turned it around enough? But then you look at the weak field, so maybe he has. I don't know. Davis Riley was an interesting one that you bring up because he was a guy that I loved last year, and he's on my potential player pool. And he checks all the things we talked about, except for he did miss the cut at the Fortnite.
It's super tricky, too, for me because I don't really weigh. I mean, course history is like a tiebreaker for me usually. I don't weigh it a ton, to be honest with you. I weigh recent form. I'm a recent form guy. Yeah, I'm a recent form guy, like 100%. And it's so tricky because it's like one event could be 4 weeks since they played. Another event, it's like how much do you really put into that? I don't know.
So it's really funny now. So he models well, and he seems like a guy that would fit this course. Davis Riley. He's $9K, which is for Davis Riley. That's
expensive.
It's expensive, but in this field.
Yeah.
You look at the guys ahead of him, Taylor Montgomery at 96, Munoz, who withdrew at 97, JT Poston at 10-2. 9K for Davis Riley is pretty good. But you see that he missed the cut at the Fortnite. He had terrible form at the end of last year. And he's missed 2 of the last 3 cuts at this event. But he's 14.5% projected ownership.
Is he really?
And that,
oh my God.
Exactly. So that's where you can win money this week. Ownership percentage is always, me, kind of something that I fade away from. But bad form, popular names are easy to fade this week because there's so many names that people don't know. The casual person that's going to be playing DraftKings this week is just going to click Davis Riley because they don't know who some of these other names that are in the 9K, upper 8K range are. So it's something to think about right there.
That's a
There's
good
no
point,
reason
too.
why David Riley should be 14.5, 15% owned.
No. What do they have Montgomery as? I'm just curious.
Montgomery, what's his price? He's 96. He's at 13.1 right now.
See, that
Well,
makes no sense.
at about 8 o'clock when I set the screen
Right.
up. So
But that makes no sense. Like, he has
right.
been unbelievable. I think he was third last week at the
Nobody
Fortnite.
knows who he is.
Right. That's the thing. But that doesn't make any sense at all because he has been an absolute stud on the Corn Ferry Tour and then was, I think, third last week, right? So
Well, that's why. So he was third last week at the Fortnite, and then going back in the Corn Ferry, he's got a ninth, a fourth, a third, a second,
yeah.
a missed cut. So that's why this week. So normally when I build my lineups, I don't have a DraftKings screen up. I've got a DraftKings screen up while I'm building my lineups because they will actually at least show how they finished on the Corn Ferry Tour.
Right.
So it is important to see that. All right, let's start. Let's look at these 10K guys. Obviously, Sam Burns is the number one guy. I'm not playing Sam Burns this week. So you got 4 guys above 10K. You got Burns, you got Tagala, you got Poston, and you got Russell Henley. I'm not playing Burns because, again, like I said, I'm surprised he hasn't withdrawn from this event. I'm zoning in Tagala. I think he's a great play this week. I think all the things we've talked about, recent form, course history, everything all together, ownership even. Burns over 20%, Tagala at 13%. Everything going into it, I think Tagala is a great anchor for DraftKings lineups this week over any of those other 3 names.
I don't disagree with you, but he's my third favorite play in the range.
Third favorite. Wow.
I am gonna play Burns.
Okay. So you're not worried about President's Cup hangover, all that partying that went on after.
No, I am worried about that. 100% worried about that. But I just feel like like how I felt about Max Homa last week. It's like obviously he was the best play in the field. I kind of feel that same way about Burns this week, and it's just like he lines up statistically. He's by far the best player in this field, so I like him a lot. I'm gonna start a lot of lineups actually with 2 of these guys.
Wow, 2 10K guys.
Yeah, or 2 10K guys, or a 10K and a high 9K guy is how I'm gonna start my lineups. The other one that I like is Poston though. I mean, 10-2, obviously that's high for him, but he's been in great form, and we're not talking for 5 weeks. We're talking for like the last 12 weeks. He's been in really good form. So he missed a cut here last year, but he's been in really good form, or he's had good course history here too. Sets up perfect on the par 4s. He's second. He's 8th on the par 5s. I just feel like his game sets up, and it's kind of like I think he's overlooked because nobody really wants to pay 10-2 for this guy, but like he's just been really solid. So I like both those guys too.
Poston's at 15%. Russell Henley's a guy I like. I kind of feel like short game putting, stuff like that will come into play. And Russell Henley used to not be a bad putter, but Russell Henley over the last year or so has become a really bad putter. And so like I kind of want to fade him. I don't know if I could pay for Sam Burns this week at that ownership percentage. And I know I'm kicking myself. I always say play the best player. I mean, he models out in my model. He is number 1 in my model, no doubt about it. And I tried to cheat. I didn't want him to be number 1 in my model. So I tried to tweak my model like 4 times. And I think 4 out of 5 times he was number 1 in my model. Yeah. So, he's great, but I just don't know if I could do it. I think there's a lot of value in the 9 and the 8K range, honestly.
For sure. I just have one point on Burns real quick before you get down there is I don't think he would come here and play, which he still could withdraw by all means. Like obviously they party, whatever. But I feel like if he's here, he's going to be motivated. He likes his course, obviously. Yeah, he's come here. I don't think he's
22 under last year.
Yeah, I don't think he's playing this week unless he thinks he can win. So,
and with this field, I mean, you got guys like, all right, let's just for random sake. I mean, you got a guy like Justin Sue in the 7Ks, Austin Eckroat, who's like a 6K guy, like a flat 6K in the 7K range. He is my guy. You got guys like so not mispriced, but priced because of the field. Man, I mean, like he's got to think he's gonna shoot 22 under again and win with no problem.
I think he thinks that, or he wouldn't be here.
What are his odds to win the event? Do you even know?
11-1 last time I looked.
Jesus, I couldn't even bet that though. I couldn't. There's no win equity there whatsoever.
No, definitely not.
All right, so 9K range. You got a bunch of names. Denny McCarthy, a 7K guy. Munoz obviously withdrew. Taylor Montgomery, a 6K guy. Scott Stallings is the guy that I'm eyeing. I'm intrigued with. Keegan Bradley, you got Pazudenhout, you got Grillo, who I've already got an outright bet on Grillo. I love Grillo. I don't like a 92 price point on him, but I love him as an outright bet. And Davis Riley. If you had to pick one, who are you picking?
If I had to pick one, I'd pick Montgomery. But I feel like this range is, I like Stallings too. I feel like this range, I can almost talk myself into anybody. So I feel like ownership's going to be huge. And I think where it might miss this week and have low ownership is Keegan. I really think that. So I like all these guys, to be honest with you. I could easily play any of them. I like probably Riley and Keegan the best. But if you're telling me that Montgomery and Riley's ownership's similar, how do you not play Montgomery?
Yeah, Keegan's the only one I couldn't. Well, Keegan and Davis Riley were the two that I talked myself out of instantly. But yet I look at Keegan's numbers. I look at everything Keegan's done. The only thing Keegan is doing against himself is he hasn't played in a while.
Right.
When was the last time he teed it up? The BMW? And he didn't play well then. He missed the cut at the St. Jude. So his last 3 events he's played, the Rocket Mortgage, which was like 6 years ago, it feels like, he finished 44th. He had a missed cut at the FedEx, and then he had a 58th at the BMW, which is basically last place. So like I the only thing that makes me want to stay away from Keegan is that. But I don't know. Scott Stallings is a guy that I loved. He was red hot until his last event of the year, which he finished basically dead last. I love Scott Stallings at 30-1. I love him in this event. And Emilio Grillo. I mean, I think Grillo, where is he? He finished third in my model. So 2, 3, and 4 in my model are all in this range. It's Stallings, 2, 3, Grillo, 4, Keegan Bradley. Stallings and Grillo, they're my guys. Grillo, birdie guy, tee to green guy, par 4 guy, shots gained total guy. Just play Grillo till he misses a cut. It's kind of the way I feel. When he gets rolling, you just keep playing him.
Grillo's been dead to me since about 2016, so I never play him.
2000 when you were born.
No. Yeah, I like a lot of those guys that you mentioned too. Grillo, I probably won't play because I'm afraid of his putting. But I actually like the 8K range a lot too. So
hold on, real quick with Grillo because something popped up. Like Grillo was, I feel you with the putting. But do you know he hasn't lost strokes putting?
I do know that.
Since June of 2022,
which is insane.
I know.
Because he might be the worst putter on the tour.
No, well, that was Keegan until Keegan became team captain of Team
Putt.
Yeah, exactly. But he has not lost strokes putting. Well, I don't know. Like the Fantasy National doesn't have strokes gained putting for the Open Championship when he missed the cut. So maybe he lost strokes putting at the Open. I don't know. But he has not lost strokes putting since the Travelers Championship.
Isn't it funny when good putters all of a sudden bad putters all of a sudden become good putters? Like we've seen Webb do it, Keegan, Grillo a little bit lately. It's weird.
Putting is a feel thing. It really is. Once you get the feel and the mental aspect of it down, it just doesn't start. All right, so you say you really like the 8K range. Who's your top target in the 8K range?
My 2 favorite plays in the entire board are both in the 8K range. Thomas Detry is my favorite play by far. T12 here last year. I don't care what his ownership is. I don't care if it's 100% I'm playing him. He's never played here, but I don't know. He's so solid. 4th in birdie or better, 1st in DK scoring, 15th in par 4, 10th in par 5. Like he's just solid and he's a scorer. So he doesn't miss cuts. So he probably will miss it this week. But I'm playing him. And then my second one is more of a gut feel. Just a guy that I feel like has too much talent.
I want to see if it's the same guy.
Is my guy.
Who?
Harris English.
I love it. He's my number one play. He is 96th in my model, but he was the first bet I made at 50-1.
I mean, he was really hurt last year. I mean, he had hip surgery or something. So that's a really big thing, and I feel like he's getting healthy. T6 here in 2020, so we know he's played here before. T9 last week. I just feel like he is he was on the Ryder Cup team. People forget that. Like a year ago, he was on the Ryder Cup team. So
he won like 75 times a year.
In 2021. He was like 3 times in 1 year, and he lost in 2 playoffs or something. So, I mean,
wasn't he in that playoff that went like 17 holes?
He was with who was it? One of the young guys.
Hickok or something like that.
Yeah, Hickok. Yeah.
One of those guys. It was like literally 8 holes in a row that they went to sudden death. The guy's steady. I think that the ninth place the fortnight last week or whenever the fortnight was, it kind of maybe he's healthy now, and he's got course history here. I love Harris English this week. Love it.
It's not like you can just come back from a hip
It's
injury
literally
either.
the
Like
first
that.
play I made this week was Harris
Yeah,
English.
I love that. Him and Detry are my two favorites by far.
That was so Harris English. Let me tell you. So I do a first lineup before I do research, just a gut feel lineup, and then I do all my research. And Harris English was the first name on my gut lineup, and then everything else I read kind of validated everything I said about him. And Detry obviously is a steal of a play. He's
Because 18 months ago, English would have been 10-5 in this field. So
absolutely. The thing with Detry though, Detry's a guy. I mean, he's got a lot of Korn Ferry Tour on his resume. I kind of feel like this is the kind of week or this false. There's always that one guy in the fall swing that all of a sudden vaults himself into notoriety for the rest
yeah,
of the year. I kind of feel like I don't know if it's this week, but every event he's in this fall swing, I will be playing Detry,
me too.
and I feel like at some point this fall swing he's going to win, and he's going to vault his name up into that. Not just the guys like me, you, the guys that do this every single week know, but the casual fantasy golf guys, they're going to learn his name really, really fast.
I think Montgomery's another one too. Like
Yeah,
just two guys that are going to be studs. I think.
There's always those. I mean, you look at all the rookies from last year and the last couple of years and where they came from on the Korn Ferry Tour. So absolutely, I like those names. Taylor Moore, Detry. I think actually they're the only names I got started in this 8K range. Yeah,
I don't
Moore,
mind
English.
Molinex either. Molinex
Yeah,
is okay.
Mullins is okay. Chris Kirk's kind of, you know, it's hilarious. Chris Kirk and Davis Riley, I kind of put in the same category of younger up and coming golfers, but yet Riley's up in the 9K and Kirk's in the bottom of the 8K. Kind of just says something about who they are at this point.
Kirk's just like a solid guy that is never going to win. Kind of, I don't know.
Yeah. What about Wyndham Clark? We talked about Wyndham Clark a lot late in the year that he was a different golfer. Well, he didn't get the different golfer respect. I mean, you would think in this field he'd be closer to 9K. He's only 8K.
He's another guy. He learned how to putt all of a sudden. Like he is an awful putter too, and all of a sudden he can putt too. So I don't mind that play. It's not my favorite, but I don't mind that play for that price.
Yeah, I mean, he's missed 2 of the last 3 cuts at this event, and his non-missed cuts were 66th and 54th. So he doesn't have good course history. And even in his recent form, 43rd at the Fortnite. Go back to BMW, he was 64th, which was there like 70 guys at the BMW. So it's not like he did really well there. He hasn't had a really good finish in a while. I just think that are we so like I kind of feel like DraftKings and betting odds and what they're different than what the eye test gives you sometimes. And sometimes these prices tell you something about a guy in a good way or a bad way. I'm kind of thinking Wyndham Clark at 7 or 8K is telling me maybe they're not respecting him like we do.
Play him then.
I don't know.
You should.
All right, 7K. 7K. What do you got in the 7K?
So I absolutely love the 7K range. I have like
Okay.
12 guys that I like in the 7K. I'll just give you my
A lot
first
of
few.
guys.
Justin Lauer is probably my favorite play in this range at 75. T4 at the
Mhm.
Fortnite. Good form before that. He's never played here, but he's young, so I like him a lot. Just like kind of, I guess, quickly. Nick Hardy, I really like. Justin Suh, I like him. I feel like
And
Svensson
say
is
his name?
under.
Is it Justin
Suh,
Saw?
Suh,
Suh?
yeah,
Suh?
Suh, yeah. So I like him. Another Korn Ferry guy, like him a lot. Smalley I like, and Hardy I like a lot too. And then Svensson, I feel like is way underpriced. I feel like he's probably going to be super popular because everybody knows the name. But I just feel like 7,400 is kind of like disrespectful for him. I mean, is there a difference between
He's 12 and a half right now, Svensson.
is there a difference between Adam Svensson? Like, do you feel any less confident playing Svensson over Clark?
What, with Wyndham Clark?
Wyndham Clark, yeah, because I feel like he should be priced up there.
So that's interesting because I feel like Wyndham Clark could win an event, but I also feel like he could miss a cut. Now, I think Svensson's going to make the cut, but is he going to finish better than 20th? No.
That's true.
Is he going to finish worse than 35th? No. So it's like, what do you want out of that value, out of that price point you pay?
I like Hardy though a lot this week too. I know I already mentioned him, but I just feel like a few weeks ago, no, maybe not a few weeks ago. I guess it was like 8 weeks ago now. But do you remember when he was like in the 9K range? Like he came on the scene, like burst on the scene, like he had a bunch of top 15s in a row, and like people were playing him a lot. He kind of faded at the end, but I don't see that much of a difference between a guy like Davis Riley and then a guy like Hardy at all. I feel like they're similar.
What about a guy by the name of Ben Hahn? Ben On. Ben, whatever you want to call
Benon,
him. Ben
Benyon.
On. Benny On. I
I
don't know how
like
to say it.
Benyon.
I like Benny On this week. Finished really well at the Fortnite. Hey, he had a third place here 2 years ago or 3 years ago. Basically, I liked all the names you said. Lauer is a top play for me. I love Lauer.
Me too.
Svenson's on my potential board. Smalley. A lot of these names we're like kind of like in tow here with these names, but Ben On's a name that kind of just I don't know. It just jumps out at me,
Well, I mean, he's a guy that
and he
I don't want
drives
to
the
say had.
ball fantastically.
Yeah, I don't want to say like he had a lot of success, but like he had mild success on the PGA Tour a few years ago. Like he's been there, done that. He obviously went to the Corn Ferry last year. Disappointing for him, I'm sure, but obviously he's here to prove something, and I like it. I don't know. I like that play too. I think
Okay.
that price is good for him too.
I think the price is really what intrigues me about him. At 80 to 1, I love them. I got a name for you. I really actually knew nothing about this guy. Then I was watching Rick Run Good's show this morning, and he turned me on to this guy. He actually finished in his top 15 in Rick's model today when he put it together. Robbie Shelton. Do you know anything about Robbie Shelton?
He is another former PGA Tour pro that went to Corn
Which
Ferry.
won on the Corn Ferry last year.
Yes. So he went down. He was up for I want to say like 2 or 3 years, and then went back down last year. I like him.
I didn't know him before
Yeah.
today. I didn't even know the name. I'm like, who is this guy?
Yeah, he's solid. He's very solid. I feel like he's a guy. He's kind of like Benny Young, where it's like there's some holes in his game, but he's like a strong. I think if I'm not mistaken, he's a good driver of the golf ball. And yeah, I don't mind that play at all.
Let me look up here where he is on the driving. What's his price? Shit, I lost him there.
He is at 73.
73. There he is. So in the field, he's 95th in driving over the last 36 rounds. But again,
But
he doesn't have a lot of recent. He doesn't have a lot of recent rounds. So let me just go through his record over the last year. So he played the Fortnite 21st. Before that, Corn Ferry Championship 26th. So these are all Corn Ferry events. 28th, first, missed cut, second, 21st, 23rd, missed cut, first. He had 2 wins on the Corn Ferry Tour last year, including like 5 other top 10s. So this guy is a guy, you said he was on the tour before. This is the kind of guy that had his card, lost it, took it like a champ, went down, worked on his game, got better, got his access back to the PGA Tour. So I kind of like that motivated golfer kind of philosophy in an event like that.
Especially like I don't put a ton of stock into that in a normal field event, but I feel like
Right.
in a fall swing where it's like a Corn Ferry guy trying to prove that he belongs on the big tour. I mean, I like that a lot too. I actually forgot my favorite play in this range because I'm an idiot. Absolutely love this guy. I feel like he is, I don't want to say a star, but a middle to upper tier golfer, and it's Steven Yeager. I love that guy. I feel like he's another guy where
he's on my maybe list this week.
He's just a birdie maker. Like the dude is solid. I was listening to some show and his caddy was saying that he's got his driving figured out, which he was spraying it all over the place. So if he does, that's a really good thing. So I like the guy a lot though.
I don't know if I just like his name because I like his name. I don't know, but he is 5th in the field.
He just looks cool.
5th in the field, birdie or better. 3rd in the field, tee to green over the last 36. 6th on approach.
6th in DK points.
Putter. Basically, over 36 rounds, he's 99th in the field in putting.
I mean,
that is the only negative that you could say about him.
You're going to give me a guy that's 6th in the field in DK points at 7,200? Sign me up.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. All right, 6K range. Let's wrap this up. First off, Svensson. We talked about Svensson in the 7K range. There's a name in the 6K range that I feel like they've kind of been linked all year long in my player pool and research. It's Svensson and Smotherman.
Yeah.
And Smotherman's at 6,800. Another guy that's going to make the cut, but not necessarily have much chance at winning. Brian Stewart. He's my number 1 play in the 6K range. You say somebody at 101 or over is going to win. I got him at 150 to 1. I've seen him come down to about 120 to 1. I think you get some good equity to bet him there at 6,600. He's got enough PGA Tour experience to beat some of these Corn Ferry kids. Is there any names you like down here?
I don't want to say not really, but not really. Like, I mean, there's the couple that you named. I don't mind Smotherman at all. Vaughn Taylor's interesting just because of his approach game. He's 5th in approach in the field, 6,500. his course history is terrible, and I think his recent form's terrible too. So there's not a ton that I love in this range. Vince Whaley, he's interesting because like we played him a lot last year too, and
He's on
I
my
don't
list.
mind him. Huh?
He's on my list.
Him, Sam Ryder's a birdie maker, but he's been in awful form too. So there's not a lot that I love. I'm actually going to try my hardest to not have to go into the 6K range this week.
Yeah. I did build one lineup. So my gut feel lineup. I want to give you my gut feel lineup. I want to say, look, Draftkings could kick me off for showing lineups live on the air like this. So I've already entered this lineup, and
They can do that?
I want what?
They can do that?
I don't know. Someone once
Oh.
when I did this once on a show late in the year. I don't know if you were on the episode. I got a DM from somebody saying, "Yo, what you did on your show, Fairway to Heaven, you can get kicked off of DraftKings for that." But they never did, so I'm gonna just let it
Too
go.
small time.
Yeah, we're too small.
They don't watch our
care
show.
about they don't care about the 200 people that watch this show. So this is in the single entry divot. I started it with
I
Tagala.
can't see that.
You can't see on your little tiny screen. I'm going to read it off to you. So here's my lineup. So I got Tagala at 10-4. I got Emilio Grillo at 9-2. I got Harris English at 86. Ben On at 74. Mark Hubbard, Hubbard at 74.
Hubbard.
And Brian Stewart at 66.
I actually really like that lineup a lot.
It's at least 400 on the table. Gives you some room to maneuver. Thoughts on that?
I really like it a lot. Hubbard lives for this kind of tournament too, like a crappy field.
Hubbard, Stewart. There's a lot of guys that love crappy fields. The John Deere Classic type guys, the Punta Cana Open guys.
Detroit, whatever it's called, Rocket Mortgage.
I wasn't going to bash Detroit this
I'll say it.
Yeah. So that's a strong build right there?
Yeah, no, I really like it. The Benny On play, I was kind of like teetering, and I feel like you've kind of convinced me that I'm going to play him this week.
Hold on. What's he, 74? Where's his ownership? He's only at 7% ownership projection right now.
Yeah, that's a mistake.
I think it's 7%. That's a steal of a
Well, once all of our fans watch this show, he'll be at like 20. So
all of our 4 fans. It's not like we don't have the sway that Rick does. When he says somebody, all of a sudden, boom, right up. I love Rick, but he's my number one guy. That's the guy I watch the most of. Let me close that out there. All right. So again, what do you do? Like, so compared to your normal week of fantasy golf, when you're on the fall swing, what are you doing this week?
I'm doing less lineups.
Same, or are you going to try like me to get creative and test different philosophies?
Well, I am testing. I'm probably going to do 5 lineups ish. I would say.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not going to go.
Look, I love the $20 or the $21 entry max event, but dude, it goes from like even in like the Hawaii swing or the Florida swing, first place is like a couple $1,000s. It's literally like $500 for first place this week. It's not worth all that investment, that time, coming up with 25 names. I'm gonna get creative this week. So
yeah, I like it.
Do you have any bets or any guys you like odds wise for outrights this week?
I've only had one bet so far. JT Poston 27-1. I like that bet. I haven't bet anything else at the moment right now.
So I went different. So instead of going full unit, I went a bunch of half unit bets just because I think it's so all over the place. So I do have Scott Stallings. He's not going to be in my he might be in my player pool. I don't know. We'll see. Scott Stallings 30-1, Emilio Grillo 40-1, Harris English 50-1. That is actually my favorite bet at 50-1 right there. Harris English, I mean, like you said, last year he would have been 10-2, 10-5. He is probably the most experienced. Is he the most experienced golfer in this field?
Probably. Pretty close to it.
I mean, maybe you could put Sam Burns up there with him, but he's that good. So I got him. I got Mark Hubbard at 80-1, Ben On at 80-1, and Brian Stewart at 150-1. I know it's a lot of bets, but I was going to go 2 or 3 bets, but then I started looking at all the odds and I really like that one. I really like that one. All of a sudden, I see my ticket folder and it's got 6 names in it. I'm like, shit. I'm in football season. My money's got to be invested in football this week. But I also had a really good weekend at football this past week.
I was gonna say, can we sidebar and talk about football for a second?
Absolutely. I had a lot of success this past week in football. I had a 4-game parlay this week. It was 12-1, and I hit it, and I had a very large bet on it. And it was a very having Jacksonville +3 and having who was the other one in it? I had two underdogs in it, and it just really made a very profitable
How
weekend.
about Jacksonville, man?
Going up against my Eagles this week. Doug Peterson coming home.
Yeah. But
what about your guy DeAndre Swift again going down for Detroit?
It happens every year. It's nothing new. It's like the dude has so much talent, but he can't stay on the field.
It's why in two of my season-long money fantasy football leagues, I got his backup sitting on my bench for a week, like this week.
Who is also good.
Yeah, he is actually. Now I want to ask you, how's it feel in Detroit? I mean, a lot of hype, a lot of potential, but yet you're 1-2.
It's funny with Hard Knocks because there's so much excitement around the Lions, and obviously people love Dan Campbell, and that's the majority of the reason. This team is different. Like, they're not – how do I put this? They're not a good team. They're still a horrible team, and we have obviously a lot of bad history on our side. It just feels different. And I feel like obviously the Eagles play them. You can kind of see it. It's like they look tougher. They look like a real team. And they're not going to win a lot of games this year. I think everybody got a little carried away with the Coach of the Year stuff.
I had 7 wins on my sheet.
Yeah. I had 5. I mean, I think they're still a crappy team. Jared Goff still blows. We know that. But, like, they have pieces, and you can see the pieces that
played in a Super Bowl.
He did. But, like, you could see their pieces, especially on their offense. Like, they have Amon-Ra St. Brown is a star in the making, a wide receiver. Like, you could see that there's talent. Swift, he can't stay healthy, but he's a good player too. It's like they have good pieces. It's just a matter of they got to, like, they don't have a defense. They have to get a defense, and they have to get a quarterback. They're going to be good, you could tell, but it's just going to take some time. And I think Dan Campbell gets a lot of credit. You know, people are like, oh, we love him. We love what he's doing. Nobody talks about the GM and how well he's drafted the past few years. And, like, Amon-Ra St. Brown was a 3rd-round pick. Like,
yeah.
This is the same dude.
I mean, we've dealt with Howie Roseman in Philly. Everybody's been asking for him to be fired for like 25,000 years, it feels like. But yet, Jalen Hurts, Devontae Smith, Nakobe Dean, you look at the last 2-3 years, his drafts have been phenomenal.
Well, too, so their GM came from the Rams. He was their assistant GM.
I didn't even know.
So, yeah, so he was their assistant GM for a long time to Les Snead. And his, like, strong suit was always finding later round guys, later round receivers in particular. He's the guy that found Cooper Kupp. He's the guy that was like, we got to draft this guy. This is my guy. I love this guy. And now he drafted Amon-Ra St. Brown, who looks like a star in the making.
He just needs a quarterback. Didn't you guys draft a quarterback this year? Which one of those guys did you draft?
No, we didn't draft a quarterback.
Oh, maybe you guys were rumored to draft one of those young guys that were going to bust out or whatever. The only thing that's going for the Detroit Lions, I think, is the fact that the Packers are kind of teetering on falling off the cliff. The Vikings are in mediocrity for the next 10 years, probably.
Yeah.
The Bears, they thought, I was never for Justin Fields. I thought any Ohio State quarterback just isn't going to make it in the NFL. Detroit, at least, there's you could see the hill that you're climbing up.
For sure.
The other teams are just kind of teetering or just floating wood or treading water.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers is 38 or whatever. Like,
some games, the Green Bay Packers still look okay. Aaron Rodgers, he looks uninterested half the time.
Yeah.
As long as Kirk Cousins is in Minnesota, you saw what the Eagles did to them on Monday Night Football. So the Lions at least have the brightest future of those 4 teams.
Yeah, and like I said, like, they're not. I think people jump the gun, and they always do. Everybody always thinks the Hard Knocks team is going to be good. I remember a few years ago it happened with Houston, the same thing. They sucked. Like, people always think the Hard Knocks teams are going to be good. They have a good foundation, and they have good leadership now. Like, it's going to take time. It feels different. I can tell you that as a Lions fan. Like, I feel optimistic for the first time in 10 years. Like, that's
good.
So, yeah.
That's good. What do you think of the Eagles so far? Are they so today on the morning show, Trending in the AM, again, plug, subscribe to DSM Media, my morning show, best morning show in Philly and across the nation on YouTube. I brought up the question, are the Eagles the best team in the NFC at this point? They're the only undefeated team, but are they the best team? I want an outsider perspective.
It's interesting. I would say, just off the top of my head, I would say they're damn close to the best team. They've looked the best. for
Who would
sure.
you? Who would you? I mean, because the concern would be the Bucks,
The
even though
Bucks.
Tom
That
Brady's
was
also getting older.
yeah.
Defense is still phenomenal in Tampa Bay. Who else would you put in the NFC? I'm not talking because even though I rank them number one, I mean the Bills, even though they're 2-1, are still probably a better team, and the Chiefs, even though 2-1, are probably a better team. In the NFC, the Rams, the Bucks, they're the only two real teams that, in my opinion, that you would say that I
But
wouldn't say that.
The Rams haven't even looked that good. That's like
No,
I would say the first one that came to my mind was the Bucks. I mean,
yeah.
once they get healthy, I think they're going to be a problem. Obviously, they're banged up. Obviously, Evans is suspended, but I mean, the Eagles. First of all, like I saw your tweet yesterday about winning the division. That's pretty much locked up already. I think that division.
Did
We
you
talk
watch
about the
that Monday
Lions
Night Football
division.
game? That was like the worst Monday Night
Yeah,
Football game in ages.
we talk about the Lions division, the Eagles division also blows. Like, and that's good for them, obviously. But like, they look like a different team to me. As an outsider perspective, they don't look like the same team from the last couple of years. And obviously, I pay more attention to them now than I paid previously to the past 2-3 years of knowing you. But like, I just feel like they look different. Hurts looks different to me. Devontae Smith looks different to me. Like, it just looks.
It's all about adding AJ Brown to that offense there, right there.
And I think everybody stopped shitting on Jalen Hurts and realized, like, we give him weapons, that you have good weapons now. Like, he's very capable. He's a very good quarterback. He's not elite, but he's good.
It was always the question was, can you win with intangibles and like great intangibles and average skill set? Because no one's ever going to say Jalen Hurts has the strongest arm or Jalen Hurts is the best. He's not going to be ever a Tom Brady. Hell,
Right.
Kirk Cousins might have more physical quarterback talent than Jalen Hurts, but he always had the intangibles, the leadership, the hard work, the cliche terms that he says to fire up a locker room. Let's be honest, that works in the NFL. If
who else has that?
If you control the locker room, you can win.
You know who else has the intangibles? Obviously, extremely intangibles. But Tom Brady. Like, Tom Brady's. I mean, look at his combine picture. Like, he doesn't look like an athlete. But
that's the over the top aspect, but it's accurate.
Yeah, of course. He's got, obviously that's the most extreme example, but like he's got right here. He's got the leadership.
You take that and then you add, like, he was a great quarterback already, but he lost a couple of championship games. He had lost a couple of Super Bowls. Then you add Randy Moss, and then look at how great he went from being great to all-time great. Mm-hmm. You take Jalen Hurts in his second year, intangibles, but lots of question marks. You throw in AJ Brown, all of a sudden you go from Jalen Reagor, a bust of a first-round pick, to AJ Brown, and all of a sudden it's kind of a different.
And second year Devontae Smith looks a lot different than first year Devontae Smith. So
when you have AJ Brown, we did some film breakdown on the morning show, and you see some of the touchdowns and some of the completions. AJ Brown's drawing double teams. It opens up other things, or
for sure,
other guys are drawing the double teams. AJ Brown's wide open. It's kind of crazy right now in Philly, because in Philly football dominates. I don't know how it is in Detroit, but football, we might talk basketball, we might talk baseball, but it all comes down to football in Philly. But it's a different story now than it was during the Donovan era, because there's like this aura that's building around this team right now because of Jalen Hurts, and it's kind of scary to an extent, because this might not be just a Carson Wentz fluke, one really great season. There's something building there in Philly right now, and
I completely agree.
Jalen Hurts is my number one stack every single week in Draftkings right now, except for this week. This week it won't be.
Well, and like I think people lost sight of Jalen Hurts. Got a lot of crap, obviously, the past couple of years, but it's like it takes time. Look at Josh Allen.
Yeah,
I mean, people think everyone's going to come on.
Oh, no! Don't say that. You say that in Philly, you'll get told you know nothing about football, because Josh Allen is so much better than Jalen Hurts.
I get it, but
I've brought that up so many times and gotten harassed for it.
First 2 years, everybody thought he sucked. He didn't go. Josh Allen didn't have a game that he went over 270 passing yards until his third season.
I know.
So obviously that's an extreme example.
But see, the people when I make that comparison, people tell me, well, Josh Allen had a strong arm.
Okay, but I could argue that flip side. He's got the physical stuff, but he didn't have the intangibles. He didn't. I mean, Hurts played for 2 major programs in college. Josh Allen played for Wyoming. No competition. He was super raw. Like obviously, it's way different. But well, I'm not saying it's the same thing. But like my example is just that like it takes quarterbacks time, and I think
Sure.
people have gotten to the point where it's like they think that even with Justin Fields, like, oh, he played 3 games, he sucks. It's like, dude, give it a minute. Not everybody's Patrick Mahomes right off the start. It takes
Yeah,
time.
I mean, nobody is really, honestly.
No.
I mean, it's kind of crazy. I love the comparison. This week, the only reason I'm going to say, if you're in fantasy football, if you're watching and catching in late here, not to play Jalen Hurts is because Hurricane Ian or whatever the hell it is, that weather is going to be hitting Philly about Sunday afternoon.
Okay,
The
so it's in
remnants
Philly.
of it, and the game's in Philly against Jacksonville. If you can get it while it's still, I think it's like 48, the over under. Lock in the under now before it drops because the rumors are sometime late on Sunday, maybe earlier Sunday, late Sunday, the remnants are going to be hitting Philly. The weather's going to be nasty in Philly on Sunday. So that's the only reason why. Otherwise, I've literally first 3 weeks I've had him in lineups every single week, and I've won every single lineup, including this week that I've hit with Jalen Hurts. So, this
It's
is just
funny how he's turned into like the no-brainer play
it
in
is.
fantasy.
Well, he was already a no-brainer in fantasy. I've got in both my money leagues. He was my top target for fantasy quarterbacks because of the rushing aspect. But
Right.
you've even seen his rushing aspects go down. He had 18 rushes week 1, 11 week 2, 8 in week 3. He's just passing the ball. So, and he hasn't scored a single point in the second half of the last 2 games. So, and he's still one of the top quarterbacks. Anyway, we got a little side tangent of football. Fairway, or what was it called? No punt intended.
No punt intended. Yeah.
Yeah, back for like 20 minutes right there. The copycat show that we didn't know was a copycat.
Yeah. Yeah. Apparently.
Anyway, I think we're gonna wrap up Fairway to Heaven right there. Thank you all for tuning in again. If you're watching on replay, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe button, share it out wherever you watch any of your stuff. Sanderson Farm Championship this week. We'll be back next week or the week after. I don't know. We might not be on a set schedule over the fall swing. We'll see how our schedules play out work-wise and life-wise. But for Jason Sullivan, I'm Phil Stiefel. Everybody have a great week. Let's make some money this week at the Sanderson Farm Championship. Let's try to tweak our philosophies and our plays this week. And I'm just going to say, Harris English for the win.
Boom.
Boom.
Out of here.